today's class. For the first portion of our class, the 5 scholarship secrets and strategies, I am going to share that segment of the class I just mentioned. And you may hear me call out a few names or answer a few questions that are not in our current chat, but it will still be very helpful information. The whole time, I will be live in the chat box to answer your questions personally as we go along. So you can get personalized answers from me immediately about anything on your mind regarding scholarships and college. Then at the end of the 5 scholarship secrets, I am going to come back on the microphone so we can have even more live Q&A. So this is really the best of both worlds, and I cannot wait to see how much today's class is really going to increase your family's chances at winning these scholarships. So let's get into this. I am going to pull this up. We will get started. You may need to click on the screen for sound once I have that up there. And remember, drop any and all questions in the chat box so I can answer those as we go along. All right, let's get started. This is what we're going to be covering. The 5 best kept scholarship secrets. So, need to know information to get your family started, to help you understand what's doable for your family, and honestly, some tips that help me win tens of thousands more dollars than I would have otherwise. So, I'm basically going to be showing you how do we bypass a lot of those mistakes that everyone else is making and just do what works, what is most lucrative. We're also going to cover the secret overlooked scholarship source to tap that 99% of parents and students ignore. I'll share the exact method that I use to earn scholarships, graduate completely debt free. That was after I covered tuition, room and board, books, fees, expenses, even a semester in DC. I'll share about my step-by-step get paid to go to college coaching program at the end. You'll have the opportunity to take advantage of that today if you're looking for some more in-depth help. And we'll be doing our Q&A. So be thinking about your questions. Truly, no question is off the table because if you are wondering it, someone else is wondering it as well. So feel free to drop those questions in the chat box as we go along. Some of those questions I'm going to answer as we go along or throughout the class. Others I'm going to save until the end for our Q&A section. So just know I'm not ignoring you. I see all those questions. I'm gathering those. And I also have the questions that were submitted beforehand via email. So if you sent me one, I have it saved and we'll cover that in our Q&A section. So let's jump right in. I actually have a question for you first. And that is, what are scholarships? When you hear the word scholarship, what comes to mind? Definitions, keywords, drop that in the chat. What do you think of when you hear the word scholarship? And the reason I ask this is because you'd be surprised by how differently people can tend to interpret this word. So I want to get a sense of what you think of or what comes to mind. Okay, so Neha says money, Sonia, merit-based or need-based aid, free money for college, says Joey, debt-free, free money, helping to pay for college. Love this. We're on a great wavelength here in the chat. Holly says financial aid that doesn't require being paid back. Financial award. Yes. This is money that we do not have to pay back. And like Michelle is saying, not alone. Lindsay's echoing that as well. This is a gift to your student. And really, in a sense, it's a gift to you as the parent as well, because you're not having to come out of pocket for your student's college expenses. Someone else or some other group is footing that college bill. Now, beyond this being money that we don't have to pay back, it also can be used for a variety of college expenses. So most people just think of tuition when they're thinking of the cost of college, but when we layer on the room, the board, the books, the fees, those things often double or even triple the total cost of college. The good news is we can use scholarships to cover that versus pulling that out of your savings, out of your retirement, even taking out a loan. We can aim to use scholarships. Also, some scholarships are renewable. I really consider this a magic word because in some cases, scholarships are going to be one-time awards. So let's say that your student gets $1,000 from a group one time. Great. That's going to cover a lot of books. In other cases, when a scholarship is renewable, they'll receive that same amount of money each and every year that they're in college. So $1,000 very quickly turns into $4,000. So we like one time awards, we like renewable awards. That's just something to keep an eye out for. And last but not least, scholarships come in all different shapes and sizes. My first scholarship that I ever won was $100. That was it. And you might be thinking, Ryan, that is so small. That would barely buy you a textbook. You would be right. But really, more what that signaled to me was if I could get $100, why couldn't I get 1,000 or 10,000 or even $100,000? And that's exactly what happened. So we want to be open to all of these different scholarship dollars and amounts because they layer on top of each other, whether it's 500, 5,000, 50,000, and beyond. In fact, one of my students, Brandon, he recently won a $60,000 scholarship. And then the week after that, he learned that he got a $500 scholarship. And he was super excited about that one too, because he understood that every dollar counts. So we really want to take advantage of it all. Now, what did my scholarships cover and what can they cover for you? Not only did my scholarships cover tuition, but they also covered room and board, so dorm and meals, books, fees, there are a lot of those, school trip abroad, semester program in Washington, D.C., gas and airfare to and from college, campus health clinic expenses, and even overage checks some semesters. So when I had more scholarship money than I needed for some semesters, they would cut me a check with the extra amount. And then I was able to use that for incidental expenses like gas, groceries, things like that, which was super helpful. So not only can we cover all of these costs with scholarships, there's never been a better time to pursue scholarships than right now. The sheer amount of opportunity that is available out there is mind boggling. There are scholarships that are even going unclaimed. We're going to talk about that later on in the class, how to pursue those less competitive awards, but there's a lot of money out there. And on the flip side, the cost of college is increasing more than ever before. So when we align the right strategies, the right motivation, the right game plan, our chances of winning are only going to go up. So you're starting at a wonderful time. It is not like you are too late to this process. Even if you have a student who's already in college, there is still time to earn awards and still defray that college cost, which is really encouraging to know. We're going to be digging into that. But no matter your student's age, you're looking at the cost of college and thinking, we don't want to get into debt. And something that I've noticed happening more and more, especially over the last few years, is that families will try earning scholarships, but what they don't realize is that they were using the wrong strategies to begin with. So when they don't win, they think, oh, I guess we're not cut out for this. We weren't born to do this. We're not good enough to win those scholarships. So they give up on that. They go all in with loans. The parent co-signs for the child. Interest starts compounding very rapidly. I have even seen instances where wages are garnished or tax returns are seized, or students and parents are taking on second jobs to cover that monthly loan payment. It is even delaying retirement until age 75. So this is no longer a 4-year problem. It's very quickly becoming a lifelong problem. And with inflation coming into play, college costs are rising faster than inflation by about 4% every year. So in numerical terms, that is an extra $7,000 more every single year on your student's college bill. Interest rate hikes are dramatically affecting the total loan cost, and the price of attending a public college has outpaced the rise in inflation by 28% over the last decade. Now, I don't bring these things up to be depressing. In fact, quite the opposite, because I see so many families who feel trapped or stuck, like they have to go the loan route, feeling like there aren't any other options. But this isn't the case. We can avoid this. You do have a choice in the matter. You have so much more of a say in the matter than most families realize, because beyond just funding your child's college education with scholarships, right? That is the main reason that we're doing this. Remember how I mentioned co signing as a parent? That's how they guarantee that the loan won't default. But then that burden is on you. So if we can keep that liability to a minimum or avoid that entirely, all the better. And this is going to allow you and your child to live life on your own terms. You're going to be able to make choices, pursue opportunities that you wouldn't have been able to otherwise. So this is so exciting because if we pursue scholarships in the right way, in the most strategic way, we can avoid that problem that is plaguing most everybody else. What you're learning has taken families who have attended this class from zero to thousands of dollars in scholarship winnings. And families will email me a couple months after attending this class and say, hey, we just won this scholarship. We got our first scholarship. Or, hey, we got this award, or we're up to $10,000, $20,000, which is so exciting. One family is even at $41,000 in the last few months since attending this class. And I'm going to be teaching you the exact same strategies that I shared with them. So, a quick introduction, whether you know me from social media or maybe you heard about me from a friend, I want you to know who's teaching you today. So, I am Ryan Kelly. I am your resident scholarship guide and expert, and I just have a blast sharing this with you because I want you to feel equipped and able to avoid a lot of those mistakes that my mom and I were making when we were going through this not that long ago. So, this is how it all went down. My mom and I started with zero knowledge pertaining to scholarships. We actually didn't even know anybody who had won a scholarship. And I remember it was right between 10th and 11th grade when my parents sat me down and said, hey, we know you want to go to college, but we don't have any savings for that. We don't expect to be from FAFSA or financial aid. So the only way that you pull this off is if you get scholarships, because we don't want you getting into loan debt either. Saying that to a rising 11th grader, I mean, for me at that point, college felt so far away. Even though it wasn't, it felt like it was. It wasn't like I was necessarily that excited about applying for scholarships. But my mom said, this is the plan. We're going to do it. Scholarships are non negotiable if you want to go to college. So she and I really started learning that scholarship process through trial and error. And I would say it probably took us a solid year or two before we geared up. We finally had a rhythm going. And that was purely because there were barely any resources. There was no one to guide us through it. We had no clue what was going on. We were starting from scratch. But thankfully, we started on that earlier side. So I had that time to make those mistakes. I know that that is not necessarily the case for all families. That is why we're doing this class, because I want you to have that leg up, that shortcut. Even though I started with that $100 scholarship win, I ultimately earned over $150,000 and graduated completely debt free. It was so exciting. I was so, so grateful. And during my senior year of college, I started getting calls from family and friends basically saying, hey, we heard you're about to graduate debt free. Can you show us what you did? Because we want to start winning scholarships to pay for our college too. So I started teaching them. They started winning their own scholarships. I started teaching more and more families, and it snowballed into doing what I'm doing today. And over the last 2 years, I have been able to help families win over $2 million in scholarships. It's just been the most incredible journey because these were families who thought, just like I did at one point, that they weren't necessarily cut out for scholarships or they wouldn't qualify for awards. And yet here they are winning scholarships and even graduating debt free. So let's go back to the beginning here because there can be some assumptions about the type of student I was, what I did in order to go from zero to $150,000 in scholarships. And I want to clarify a few things first. I did not have a perfect SAT or ACT score, not even close to it. I actually really struggled with standardized testing. It was just not my strong suit, but I still was able to get scholarships. I also was not a genius. I had good grades, but I didn't have a single AP class on my transcript, and I was not an athlete. So I did not have a sport that I played throughout high school or college. I actually played golf for one semester during my ninth grade year, And then I switched to debate, which I called my mental sports. But sports did not play into my scholarships at all. And that's a fun fact. Only about 4% of scholarships available are related to sports. Most of them are not. So don't think that your student has to play a sport or they need a certain SAT, ACT score or a certain number of AP classes in order to earn a scholarship, because there's a lot of flexibility in terms of what judges are looking for. And to show you that this was not just me, my sister graduated debt free as well. She actually earned $100,000 more than I did. So I was the guinea pig. I made the mistakes. Then she had the blueprint ready to go. But we both graduated debt free. It all worked out. And it was just really incredible to be with her on that day and celebrate that. So, this is what we did do. We're going to go more in depth on each of these. I did lower competition, smaller scholarships that added up. I did contests based on my interests and my skills, not just my major. And I used my magic bucket breakdown strategy, where to pull pieces of funding from and when. These are the scholarships that I won between 10th grade to senior year of college. And this is really fun to show you because hopefully you can take a deep breath here and realize this does not all have to happen during your student's high school senior year. There is so much more eligibility than that. And if you look at this chart, the green number was my total as it grew, and then the blue number was what I won in a given year. So if you're just getting started or you're thinking that you have to cram this into a short period of time, that is placing way too much pressure on yourself. You will have more success spreading this out over several years rather than trying to do it all at once. So when I was in high school, I was just focused on paying for that year that was right in front of me. So that was freshman year. And then as a freshman, I was earning scholarships for sophomore year. And as a sophomore, or was earning scholarships for junior year, and so on and so forth. And every family I have shared this with, it has been such a game changer for them, this perspective shift, because number one, it takes the stress off. When we're looking at that six-figure number of what college is going to cost, it's paralyzing. It's debilitating to look at that number and think, how in the world are we ever going to come up with that kind of money? So we're going to take that number, we're going to set it to the side. We're not going to think about that for a little bit. The second thing that we're going to do is set reasonable goals. And this is really where the magic happens. So over the next 5 to 6 months, we're just going to focus on earning our first scholarship or 10K